Good morning, everyone. We'll call to order at 7:30. Good morning. Let's just stand for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Okay, first action. First is recommended action, approval of minutes from February 4th. I know Jenny provided them. Moved by Mr. Holmes. Seconded by Mr. Lucy. Any questions on the minutes? I'm hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Morning, Mr. Enos. Morning, Mr. Gibbons. All right, old business, project administration, no bid document releases, no bid reviews, recommended awards and proposals. The first one, item 3A, environmental consulting, $1,140, high school projects. Is this you?
Nobody may,
Yep, okay.
Question your approval on this, invoice for, foundation testing for waterproofing, for asbestos. Just, if you have any questions, be happy to answer.
Any questions, Mr. Oliver, on that? Hearing none, looking for motion to approve environmental consulting.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Lucy, seconded by Ms. Glory. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, next, 3B, Secoshing and Associates, $31,104, required third-party estimates for the summer 26 projects. This, Mr. Calcagno, who's this? Mr. Oliver?
Okay. This is for the summer projects that for design purposes, all this has to be, it's a wide requirement. So it's $31,104.
Who's the third party?
Secoshing.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
C2E is the estimate.
Yeah, right. Who's the first party?
Yeah.
Give us our values of what the project's gonna cost.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Are these all projects we're doing? Are there any other projects besides these?
No, this is all it's being
This
done.
is the complete itinerary. Okay. Any questions for Mr. Oliver? Okay, cool. All right, hearing none, looking for a motion. I'm sorry, it's already moved? Did we move it? We didn't move. Okay, looking for a motion to approve. So moved by Mr. Holmes. Seconded by Ms. Glory. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, the fun part. Change order reports.
Some of it's good.
All right, so, we'll have to do this one at a time. First one's a Pilgrim, Dimeo Construction A, $95,247.
Is it okay if I add a little context before we go through these
Yeah.
things?
Yeah.
So we're like a few months now into this coordination process with the subcontractors and the architects, right? So we have weekly meetings. We meet at least once a week. There's a request for information, dialogue that's going back and forth right throughout each week. And basically we're trying to refine, coordinate both of these buildings. And I don't know how to put it, but there's clarifications being issued and some design changes as a result of this coordination between the contractors and the designers, right? It's a typical part of the process, fully anticipated it. There are some contract changes as a result of these refinements, right? And the things we're talking about are like moving walls, moving pipes, moving ducts, right? To make sure everything fits. There's some things that the subcontractor points out as means and methods that could improve, right? The constructability could improve the building as a whole. So a lot of the changes that we're talking about here are a result of this coordination process that's been going on for several months right now. So we're very much in the thick of this PCO process as a result of that, right? And so you're going to see a lot of these, and then it's going to start to taper off. Individually, these changes that we're talking about, moving walls and so forth, don't amount to a lot of money, but in the aggregate, they do start to add up, right? So we issue design bulletins, which is essentially an update to the drawings. That becomes the basis for the change, the subcontractor, the prices, right? And that's what we see here is performance, right? Is the it will change the contract. So just wanted to kind of give you a little context before we get going here. So we got 13 of these that we got to go through. So
Yeah.
That's what we'll take the first one.
Yep.
Pilgrim, this is for Pilgrim High School. So this is a result of a design bulletin number 1, right? An update to the drawings. This is coming in post bid, right? Post GMP development. There's a list of things that are in this, right? Because we're trying to capture the coordination process into this one design bulletin update issue with landscaping, foundation modifications, there's some electrical clarifications that came out of this, added some light fixtures, additional piping materials, underground waste and vent systems, a whole list of different things under different trades. This one actually, after the review process got reduced by about $20,000. We found that the contractors in fact own some of this work after we went into the deep dive and reviewed it. So the final agreed amount is $95,247.
Questions for left field?
John, how many different trades did that involve?
I mean, I have to go through at least
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 trades.
trades.
Sabez Steel is in there twice.
Yeah.
They had 2 different components of their cost in there.
Is that tariff related?
No,
Oh,
they
no.
had some steel columns that were, in height by like 8 inches.
Yeah.
So they credited the smaller ones, and then it was an ad for the
Right.
longer ones. So there was some tonnage that ended up being added to the Sabez, proposal on one of them. And then the other part of the Sabez steel was, a brick shelf that was lowered in one section, the middle section of, Pilgrim on the, like the fingers, the B side.
Yeah.
They lowered a brick shelf, so there was some lintels, and so that was some corresponding miscellaneous steel. And commercial masonry had some more masonry work due to the lowering of a brick shelf.
So question, you say post GMP, does that affect the GMP in any way?
It does. It changes the contract amount for the construction portion of the work. It doesn't change the total cost of the work because we're paying for these through our owner's contingency, right? That's exactly why we have that contingency. So the overall cost of the project doesn't increase, but the overall cost of the hard cost does.
So this is stuff we use owner's contingency or construction, the contingencies that are in the project, right, would be used to.
Right, exactly. The very reason we have that owner's contingency is because
exactly.
we fully anticipated this process taking place, and there would be some amount of changes. In an ideal world, a perfect world, there'd be nothing, right? But we're not living in a perfect.
Mr. DePort, you had a question?
I do. Well, that's more of a statement. Please make sure that any plan, changes to the plans get forwarded to the fire marshal and Seth Goldvetz for review, just to make sure it doesn't affect the egress or anything like that.
Absolutely.
So I have a follow-up question on that if I could. So like these changes were minor, they're not layout changes, they're literally some columns increased in height by like 10 inches and then a brick shelf lowered. It doesn't change any functionality of the building.
But
We
it's-
intend to issue a fully baked as-built when we're all done,
Fully conforms.
fully
Yeah.
conformed set, but,
I understand that, but they should be uploaded and us notified that these are the changes that were made. So,
Maybe give
so
a
we're
brief
just,
narrative so they know whether they have to be cognizant of an egress issue or something like that, or a fire rating change, life safety plan, those types of things.
but it goes beyond that, just in case somebody wants to come in and sit down and take a look at the plans. We have a current set of plans.
okay, well, so
So
we can give
even if
you
they're add-ons,
electronic access through Procore. But if we, literally, like this bulletin one was 78 pages.
Yep.
As you know, because you have the document,
I just-
the permit said it's
I
like
just need the
500
final result to say that this column changed from 62 feet to 84 feet. But just something to reference in case we're ever questioned.
Right,
Do you need it at the end of the project or do you need it in real time? I guess would be the
It
question.
should be real time, just in case.
so again, I would go back to guys electronically.
Yep.
Okay, because literally, we'll be spending thousands of dollars.
Right.
Yeah, you're-
No, I don't need
Print
hard
everything.
copies. I just, yes, because we're electronic anyway.
Okay.
So you want to take that increase in the column size and just upload that page to us, that's fine. I don't need I don't need everything else that goes with whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
It was
'Cause
72
it
pages.
just-
I just need
It
what
gets
happened.
unwieldy, just so you know. I
Yeah.
mean, we're on bulletin 15. One of these bulletins alone was 300 pages.
Yeah.
So basically, almost every single document that we gave you for a permit set
Yeah.
has had some change to it.
Sure.
And we'll continue until we get through this
Mm-hmm.
process. So I think the best thing is for us to just update onto the web portal, the most recent
Right.
drawings.
Just
And Al, you're
we're,
saying you don't need,
we're kept
you
current.
just need, the column goes from 62 to 84.
Right.
You don't need all the supporting paperwork that explains why. You just need Right, to know that.
Oh, just to know
Because
that,
it's-
yeah.
Yeah, that supporting paperwork still exists.
Right.
It's just that you don't need all of that information. We don't want to crash the city's computers.
So we have a cloud.
Oh, okay.
So that-
Right now, it's quite large.
So Al, I would say both projects on average, we receive one bulletin per week, and that includes a narrative of the changes, the updated specifications, if there are any, and the updated drawings. You want us to just upload that whole
Sure.
bulletin to the portal as an attachment?
Yeah.
And then at a point, we'll have a conformed set.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, just, you just never know who comes in and questions what's going on.
So again, and we can take this offline if you want, but I'm
Yeah, we can
thinking
do
like,
that. We can have a conversation. We should probably sit down with Seth and the fire marshal and find out what we need to have.
Okay. because I'm just thinking that right now, well, like I said, Pilgrim's up to, I think, bulletin 14.
Yeah.
It probably makes sense just to upload the most current set, and that way you're in what lot sync with what we're looking at.
Okay.
Okay.
And Tollgate's about the same, probably.
Any other questions for? All right, and this is because designs aren't final, right? So to your point, they do change, and this isn't a surprise that you're gonna have
Yeah,
some
there's
changes to design, right?
Continuation or refinement of the design.
Right. Because we get questions. You know, how'd you approve these set of plans when?
Right.
We knew, we didn't know changes coming until, because what they said, it's evolving every day.
Yep.
So,
That makes sense. I get that. All right, any other questions for? All right, hearing none, looking for a motion to approve PCO 950080 for $95,247. Moved by Mr. Lucy, seconded by Mr. Enos. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Next, Pilgrim PCO 950010 totaling $19,968.
There's the changes done by bulletin update number 5 for Pilgrim. Different trades in this one too. Stairwell, fire protection stairwells. They added some roof hydrants, extra sprinkler piping in stairwells, and added some cold water piping for the roof hydrants, and some material for the chase walls and interior partitions in the Cisco networking classroom. And Mark, I don't know if you had any more than that.
No, this one was a little more straightforward. It was just to those two trades. It was just Delta on fire protection. Laris, who's our drywall contractor, was a small amount of some additional drywall work.
I have a question. So on a change like this, because it's fire protection and stuff like that, does that require the fire marshal to go and re-inspect that, or?
that's why the plan should be submitted with the changes to see if it's, because we have the HJ says it's code compliant or not.
Yeah, okay. All right, that's you kind of just proved the point that you were making in the last one. I get it. Okay.
So, and Dave, just a little color commentary. So what was added here were roof hydrants, and those are more for the maintenance team. So when they're up working on a roof and they want water, so, to work on HVAC or hose down a roof or whatever, there'll now be roof hydrants up there. So
Right, so that's not a fire.
It's not, it's
Thing.
really not a
Fire
code
code
issue, it's
thing,
more of a
right.
maintenance.
Okay.
But could it become an FTC
No. I don't think so.
if they needed to attach to that as a roof hydrant? If there's an issue up with the,
I don't know, based on the size, it's probably not big enough
Yeah.
for a
it's not
fire.
a 2-inch line?
I think it's just for a regular garden hose,
Yeah.
my understanding.
Yeah, I think you're
Okay.
correct.
All right,
All right, any
I
other
think they
questions?
carry
Although
them too.
all water helps.
Any other questions for Leftfield or Dimeo? Okay, hearing none, looking for motions to approve PCO 950110. Moved by Mr. Lucy, second by Mr. Enos. No further questions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next, item C, Pilgrim PCO 950120, $60,149.
And this is to capture changes from bulletins number 6 and 8. It's largely in response to one particular RFI, number 128 from Rossi Electric, asking for a series of clarifications on the electrical and AV drawings. So the changes include refinements to some floor boxes, pro-throughs, auditorium aisle lighting. It's a mix of add and reductions, but the net cost is what you see there. That's $60,149. Okay. I don't know if Mark had any more color to add.
Any questions for Dimeo or Leftfield on that one? All right, hearing none, looking for motion to approve PCO 950120. Moved by Mr. Lucy, second. Seconded by Mr. Enos and Mr. Kravitz. Any further questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. All right, D, this is the big one. PCO, Tollgate PCO 940010 R1 for $1,215,233.
It's a big one. So I'll get us started. One of the remaining scope items that we still needed to award was the demo and abatement for both projects. This is for the Tollgate project specifically. This is for the existing school demo and abatement. So Demio solicited bids at the beginning of the year. They got 3 bids from the typical major players in the market, right, that you'd expect. American Environmental, Select Demo, and Sycon and Jarvanagro as a joint venture. So again, demo and abatement of the high school and selective demo in the CTC building for the renovation project. That's the scope of the work. So we carried an allowance in the GNP for $3,515,000. That was based on an estimate that we had done early last year. We spent $553,782 of that for the Drum Rock demo and abatement project. That was last year, right? So that's one draw to that allowance that we carried. That left a balance of $2.9 million. The low bidder was American Environmental with a recommended bid of $4.1 million. We're also including in this scope of work some test pit work done by Manafort, and that was to check to see if there was any hot dam proofing on the foundation. If there was, we want to include that in their pricing, right? So Manafort helped us dig the test pits. Turned out there is no hazmat dam proofing on the foundation, so that was a small win. We don't have to include that in the bid amount. So a little bit of just kind of context. When we first saw the overage, the amount of the overage, we did take a pause. We questioned why. The explanation is, so there's some additional abatement scope that's included in this that we weren't anticipating when we put that allowance estimate together last year. There's also some second shift time that was decided to be included because we want to do this work second shift so as not to conflict with school activities. And I think the market is just dictating this price. And we did go, Kevin would agree that we went so far as to say, do we just rebid this thing, right? This is a big cost. But in consultation with the team here, I mean, we got bids from the 3 players that we expected. If we were to go back out there and rebid it, we'd probably best case get the same 3 bidders, maybe not even all 3. And the likelihood of the bids going down would be very small, right? So after all this discussion, we think that this is the number that we're looking at. And because it's in excess of the allowance, the amount that you see before you is a change to the contract. So it'd be $1.2 million change to the contract if we were to award American Environmental.
Questions for
John, did AA Wrecking out of Johnston, did they bid on the job? You know them?
Nope.
No?
No.
Okay.
American, Jarvanagro, and
Sycon.
any other questions
Right.
for? Good morning, Mr. McCaffrey. Question on the second shift work. Obviously, demolition is a noisy process, right, and a messy process. So I understand. So what's the time frame? I guess what I'm asking is, does that number change depending on when the demolition actually started? What if demolition started in the summer? Second shift isn't a concern, right?
True.
Yeah. Right. So that's what I wrote. What's the time frame?
Yeah.
And then what's the cost that's built in for that second shift work? So in other words, let's just play it out. Say if demolition starts 3 days after school's out, right? So now you've got 3 months. I don't know how long the time frame is to demo the building.
Right.
Is it that long? Is it 3 months? Would it take that long?
Be a little longer than that.
Longer than that,
Right.
yeah.
So what if 80% of it could get done?
Yeah.
With first shift work? That should be reflected, I would assume. Right? I don't know how this, I'm trying to figure out how this works.
Yeah.
Right? What if 80% of the work is done on first shift?
Yeah.
Right? Wouldn't it be helping?
So Dave, this is based on the current schedule, which has us turning the building over for occupancy for the spring semester, right? So the plan is to go and immediately start demo after right after the new year. After
Okay.
you guys are out of the building, and then if we waited till the summertime, the majority of the demo would happen during, the January through June period. If we waited, we would be at a standstill to do all of the other.
Right,
site
no,
work.
I was suggesting we wait. I didn't know what the normal cadence of the project was.
Yeah, so that's the schedule.
Okay. If that's reflective of what your current schedule is.
Right.
Okay, all right, I get that. That was the only question that I had. I have one more. So I know it's like looking through a crystal ball, but now Pilgrim's demo. Do we expect something similar?
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, there wasn't a second building involved. at
yeah, we're
Pilgrim.
being conservative and we don't have a number, but I mean, if the market's dictating this, I mean, we're going to assume there's going to be some overage maybe in the night, but we don't know for sure, right?
No, we don't know for sure, but I think one of the bigger differences, I don't think at Pilgrim will need to go to a second shift.
Right.
I think that,
Okay.
that's a pretty big price driver. So I think that should be able to be done on regular, normal working hours at Pilgrim.
Is one easier to demo than the other? It sounds like a silly question.
It's gonna be a tough building. to
Pilgrim
demo.
will come down
Pilgrim would be
easier.
easier, right? Than Pilgrim.
Yeah.
And I don't think we-
It's a bunker, all the waffle slabs and everything. It's,
Okay, all right.
And the hazmat scope should be, I think that the surprise on the hazmat scope is at the CTC building, is that right? In Tollgate? Or is that,
there was some more abatement within CTC.
yeah,
Based
so I
on the
think that
reports after we put the numbers together and anticipated.
we shouldn't get that at Pilgrim either, so.
Just have a question. If the timetable shifts and we are doing it, able to do it during first shift, does the price shift at that point? Or is that's just a locked in price?
I suppose we would need to evaluate that with the contractor. Of course, there would be a cost savings. The challenge would be there would be some significant other costs that would come in and along with that, shifting that whole scope to start in the summer.
No, I'm not saying to start in the summer. I'm saying if somehow it shifts just by virtue of the project itself, what happens to the price?
Well, like you said, that the pricing was built by the schedule.
Correct.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that-
so
so that-
if that arises, that means we've got a schedule problem, which Candace's head will explode, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's based on the current schedule, and that
Yeah.
second shift work is really a requirement of being able to continue to run the buses throughout the day through that road that runs between the schools. And Pilgrim doesn't have that logistical
Yeah.
challenge, so that's,
Then noise ordinances to concern ourselves with, we're doing second shift. I mean, there's not a lot of surrounding neighbors.
I want
there.
to talk about noise ordinance.
Okay. We'll erase that from the tape.
Yeah, there is a noise ordinance.
Yeah, but by then Shallows will be up and running on the waterfront. We'll be all set.
Good point. Good point.
Point, Bill.
All right, any other questions for left field or Dimeo on that? All right, hearing none, look for motion to approve, Tollgate PCO 940010R1. Moved by Mr. Lucy, second, seconded by Mr. Holmes. Any further questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed, motion carries. Okay, items E, F, G, H, and I, and J are all credits. So do we want to do them as a group?
Yeah.
All right, so, all right, so I'm gonna look for a motion to approve, and then we'll ask questions. Agenda items 4E through 4J, all credits for Tollgate PCOs. Moved by Ms. Glory, second by Mr. Holmes. Okay, Mr. Bates, just want a quick rundown of what these are?
Little context, so, while the GMP was being developed, as James mentioned, bulletins are coming in almost on a weekly basis, right? So at some point, we had to pause on trying to include these design updates in the GMP, or else, it would be a never-ending process. So we cut off the bulletins at bulletin number 2, and that constituted sort of the design scope that was working in the GMP. What we did was included a series of allowances for bulletins that were coming in or that we knew to be coming in. Numbers 3 through 8 bulletins, number 3 through 8, each have their own line item and allowance allocated towards it. So as you look down the list here, just starting as an example, the $1,259, we had a $10,000 allowance in the GMP for what we knew was going to be mock-up concrete foundation scope of work. The actual cost was something much less, right? It was actually, it was somewhat less. $8,800. So we get the balance returned to us plus the typical markup, which is 6%. And so that applies to all of these PTOs credits that we have here. So markup steel was another allowance for $10,000. And we didn't end up using any of that. And then we get that then plus the 6% markup.
The total is $148,800, so a little more than 10% of the overage on the demo. Look at it that way. All right, so it's a move and second. Any questions for Demio or left field on any of those? Okay, hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next, item K, Tollgate PCO 950020, $3,733.
Okay, so this is an interesting one. So this is to change from a flat to a curve mounted diffuser. And this is on areas where we have exposed spiral ductwork. And this is an architectural change. It's an aesthetic change. And after talking to Kevin and this team, it was agreed that for a small amount of money, right, just under $4,000, this would be an architectural improvement that would last the building for the next 50 plus years, right? So it's an example where we said, okay, it's a small investment for the betterment of the project for the next few generations. We think that's a good investment, right? If the number were 30,000, 300,000, it would be a different conversation, right? But in this case, we thought it was a very small investment to make a more appealing aesthetic change.
Okay, questions for anyone? Okay. Hearing none, looking for a motion to approve Tollgate PCO 950020.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Glory. Second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Enos. No further questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, Tollgate PCO 950120 for $4,339.
This is an existing conditions information issue. We thought there was going to be a catch basin, and it turned out there wasn't one. There was an additional cost to make a connection to a storm drain. It was for $4,000. I don't know if anyone else has any recollection or any more insight on that one, but it's pretty straightforward. It was recommended by PAR Engineering to go with this approach. Kevin had reviewed it, we approved.
How much work are they actually doing to tie it in?
Swapping a line, some pipe work, right?
Right, just to eliminate the entire structure. They changed the modification of the work, eliminated an entire structure. Am I right, not James? Is that the one that's the whole structure was eliminated just by connecting a pipe with a riser? So it's actually saved a lot of money on that.
Yeah, but if we had added the structure, it probably would have been around a $16,000 change. So by doing this drop instead of adding the
How much
structure.
digging are you doing? 10 feet, 12 feet, 6 feet? Just curious.
Okay, what's that, James?
Roughly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a day and a half worth of work for the crew with the equipment. I don't have an exact linear footage.
There are pictures here, right? Are there pictures in this?
There was a plan.
On the support of the
marked up
PCO, there's
plans
some
and
pictures.
photos,
Looks
yeah.
like a drain pipe that's goes to nowhere. Yep, just
Yeah.
stops.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah, and there's a big, is that steel?
Cement.
That's cement. Okay. Sure. Any other questions for Demio or left field? All right, hearing none. For a motion to approve PCO 950120.
So
Moved by Mr. Enos. Second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Lucy. Any further questions? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed. Motion carried. Last change order, PCO 950141, $125,425.
So we know that the administration imposed an additional 25% tariff on imported steel. This would be for material across the border between January 10th and 30th. And that is the amount, 125,450. And we knew when we presented the first one last month, we had two more, right? Two more.
Yes.
We're expecting. So this is the second of three.
Any chance of this being refunded with the Supreme Court decision?
Not
The
to our
process-
knowledge.
Is there a
Yeah.
process to,
Right.
it sounds like they may have some issues with. it.
Yeah, but I think the steel and aluminum tariffs still stand because they impose those under different, laws. That's what I remember reading, that steel and aluminum would still stand. They wouldn't be affected by the Supreme Court decision because they weren't
this
passed
is-
through IEPA.
And this is steel that's already crossed the border and that cost is incurred at the time of the border
I
crossing.
get it, just with the timing of the decision and the tariff fees, I just want to make sure we're not missing out on anything.
I do have a question. On the explanation of it, it says, 25% tariff beyond 131, later deliveries planned, latest sequences, including 1727. So how many more deliveries are we expecting? Is that, does that encompass one delivery or two or three or not that it matters, the math is the math.
So I don't know exactly how many trucks, those 6 or so sequences
Okay.
will have. We're carrying, within the job, another $100,000 is the rough order of magnitude to cover those additional
We're up to what, about $300,000 in tariff fees so far?
right now, yes.
Get all the tariffs. Okay, all right. Any other questions for Dimeo or left field on that? Hearing, I'm looking for a motion to approve PCO 950141.
So we'll
Moved by Mr. Enos, seconded by Mr. Kravitz. No further questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Okay, next.
Mr. Chairman, if you would,
Yes.
before we go on.
Mhm.
So of all these changes, credits and additions, like where was our contingency?
I'm gonna go through that in the project update. I've got some charts that will kind of tell us not only, what the status of the contingency is, but what portion of the changes are resulting, some broad categories.
All right, next, consent payment authorizations. Items 5A through E for AAA mobile warehousing. It's for athletic storage, $579. Looking for a motion to approve. So moved by Mr. Lucy.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Calori. Any questions? Okay, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Next, Amazon, this was approved in the February meeting for $37.98. OPM office supplies. Looking for a motion to approve.
someone,
Second? I'll second. Questions, Mr. Oliver or Jenny? Whatever this is?
Say, an adapter for the,
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yes, yes. This was from the last meeting. You have a
Yes.
picture of it. Yeah, okay. All right.
Yep.
All right. Any other questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Next, items G through I totaling $5,550. It's BRNA High School Bond Commissioning Agent Services. Looking for motion to approve.
someone,
Moved by Mr. Enos, seconded by Mr. Kravitz and Mr. Holmes. Any questions for left field on this? This is standard stuff, right? Okay,
Third-party Q&A, consultant.
okay. All right, no further questions. Call a vote. All in favor? Opposed, motion carries. Okay, next, Dimeo Construction. We'll do, application 19. $3,677,297.19. Pilgrim High School.
The amount billed is appropriate. One note on the Pilgrim rec, there is a $1.276 million amount paid to Manafort. And that is specifically for the tipping fees to truck the contaminated soil to a specific facility. And those are being drawn down on particular allowance lines that were carried within the contract that we had put together when we developed the GMP, knowing that there was some issue with the contaminated soils, but we didn't know the full extent at that time last year. So we put some, numbers towards it. So we're drawing towards those allowances, which is helping pay for the overall cost of this DEM issue. But hence why this in total was a little bit larger than what we would have expected. It's because of those tipping fees, 1.2 million. So it's a little.
Okay, and you're gonna, at some point, report out where we are with those allowances.
Yeah, and I'd wanted to do it
Like in the aggregate, we don't need.
in the
specifics,
aggregate
just-
much sooner, but it's proven to be more complex than we originally thought, and we're still working through the numbers to really fully understand the full impact of this. But it still stands like what I had said a couple months ago. It's in the multiple millions of dollars. And like I said, we do have a couple million built into the GMP and allowances to deal with it. It's going to offset that total amount. But, you know, maybe by next month, we'll have a firmer number for you, but it's, you know, the schedule impacts to it, obviously, right? And that has a big dollar amount associated to it. There's the tipping fees that I just mentioned. And all the different trades, you know, they have these various impacts to the trades. So still working through it. It's complex. We'll have an answer for you soon.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Bates? Okay, here I'm looking for a motion to approve Demio application 19.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Galori, seconded by Mr. Kravitz. Any further questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Item K, application 19 for Toby, $2,462,076.
Yeah, same thing, except without the, you know, obviously the tipping fee allowance draws, but a little underbilled, I'd say, right, James, still, but you know, it's not a reflection of the work in the field. It's more just, you know, timing of the invoices from your subs. Is that correct? But we recommend approval.
All right.
So from a cash flow standpoint, we're under where we projected.
Any other questions for left field?
Just staying with the cash flow, we're aligned with, the city so far.
Yeah, under what we projected to the city, frankly.
We just want to be a good partner.
Of course.
We want a compliment too, don't we, every once in a while? All right. Any other questions for left field? Okay, hearing,
Thank you.
looking for a motion to approve application 19 for Toby. Moved by Mr. Holmes,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Lucy. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay, next, item L, FINA Inc., Construction Testing Agency, construction testing agent, $13,190.
Well done on the name. Yeah, so checks and balances, right? It's making sure everything is done by code and per industry standards. This particular work is for field welding inspections at Tollgate for the last month. So we do recommend approval.
All right, looking for motion to approve FINA for $13,190. So moved by Mr. Lucy, seconded by Mr. Enos. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Next, item M, left field project managers, $110,000, their monthly February OPM services.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Calori, seconded
Second.
by Mr. Enos. Any questions for Mr. Bates? Mr. Spiegel's not here, so we're not gonna leave. We'll wait until he comes. All right.
Thank Mr. Bates for carrying Mr. Spiegel.
All right, all in favor? Opposed, motion carries. Okay, next, item N, SOM Architecture, $121,495.25, January services at Pilgrim.
Monthly progress billing. Yeah, I do want to say, we don't see SOM at these meetings, but I mean, they and Secosio are both involved in close to half a dozen meetings throughout the course of the week with the different trades, and they're issuing design bulletins, as we said earlier, on an almost weekly basis. There's RFI correspondence going back and forth, submittal reviews. So you don't see them here, but they are certainly working and earning their fee.
Questions for Mr. Bates? Hearing none, excuse me, hearing none. Looking for a motion to approve SOM, item N.
So
Moved by Mr. Enos, seconded by Mr. Kravitz. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay, next, items O through S. Excuse me, bond to summer, excuse me. Summer 26 projects for Secosio, items O through S totaling $35,357.50. We'll look for a motion to approve all of those, and we can ask questions. Motion to approve. Moved by Mr. Holmes, seconded by Ms. Calori. Any questions for Secosio?
Yeah, Dave.
Yes.
The disability upgrade, is that Warwick Neck Elementary?
That one's already been done. It's been completed. That was done during the, summer project.
So what's this for then?
This is for all the other buildings.
Oh, all the other
Yeah,
buildings. Okay.
because we use them as polling places. Right.
Okay.
And if you had provided a list, it varies from striping
Right,
in some locations to actual physical.
actual ramps and stuff like that.
Okay.
Any other questions for Secosio on those? All right, so moved and seconded, look, call a vote, all in favor? Aye, opposed, motion carries. Okay, item T, Secosio and Associates, $90,081.75, February services for Tollgate High School design.
Same thing as the same spiel I went through with some monthly progress billing, so.
Okay. Questions for Mr. Bates or Secosio? All right, hearing none, motion to approve item T for Secosio. Moved by Mr. Kravitz, second. I'll second. Seconded by Mr. Kane as well. All right, any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye, opposed, motion carries. Next, items U through Z, Stephen Turner, ride required commissioning services totaling $12,768.25 for Windman, Sherman, Greenwood, Warwick Neck, Oakland Beach, and Holland renovation. Looking for a motion to approve U through Z.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Capri, second. Seconded by Ms. Calori. Any questions for? It must be Kevin. That should be you, right? Is there any questions? It's pretty straightforward stuff. Okay, all in favor? Aye, opposed, motion carries. Okay, on to new business, discussion, capital and construction project status update for Mr. Oliver.
Just want to let everybody know next month probably be coming to you for approval on all summer projects. We're up to bid now for most of them. We're doing some walkthroughs today. So hopefully next month we'll be coming to you for your approval for all the summer projects.
And that's really what's going on, right? All the other stuff is.
Yeah.
Is done.
Are we doing any HVAC systems this summer at all?
Hoxie.
Actually, we're doing it.
Review the last three that we've done to see what issues we've had with them.
Sure.
Yep. We avoid the same issues with,
Yep.
epoxy.
Yes, sir.
This is a temporary, air, right, that we're putting in?
Yes.
We've had an awful lot of trouble in the last 2 years with systems and I just want to avoid that if we.
Yeah. Yeah, the tempered airs, from what I understand, have been better, much better than the cassette systems, right? Sound like I'm an HVAC guy. You learn by osmosis. Okay, you got it. Any other questions for Mr. Oliver? Okay. Next, discussion, presentation, high school project update for Mr. Bates.
Okay, so bear with me, I've got a quick presentation, I'll go through it quickly. So I already went through my information about the contract change coordination, right? I told you that we're meeting weekly, doing a deep dive in the plans, right? So I won't belabor that. And I told you what the design bulletin updates are. We already went through a series of PCOs that capture a lot of these updates, so I'm not gonna spend any more time on that. I told you I was gonna update you on the contingency, right? So we just approved 175,364 for Pilgrim in PCOs, and the total to date is 178,660. And then Tollgate similarly, so we just approved $1.2 million just today, and then in total we've got 1.4 that we've approved. So that's a grand total of 1.1598 that we've approved in changes to date. And so the impact to the owner's contingency. This is what we have as a balance, 13,418,291 remaining in owner's contingency. And I told you that I wanted to just show you a breakdown just in large kind of general categories, what attributes to these changes. So that bid overage that we approved today, the demo and abatement scope comprises the majority of it. Design coordination is actually at 5%, right? So that whole coordination RFI submittal process that I talked about is a small portion of the changes. Tariffs, the second biggest. So it gives you a sense of where we're at there. So we're looking at a couple of potential costs, particularly for the Pilgrim project, that I want to make you guys aware of. This isn't so that you have to make a decision now, obviously, or take a vote, but in the next couple of meetings, we're going to have some significant costs. This is one of them, right? So this was a change that came after the GMP was awarded. It was a request by the school to add a referee room at the annex building. So it's a separate refs room with a side entrance, toilet, shower, lockers, and a bench. So we reduced, as you can see here on the right-hand side, the size of the concessions area to make room for the ref room, which sounds like a small change, but then the subcontractor presented us a change of $140,000. So it's something that we want to just kind of take a pause, especially in light of the referendum results from last month. And just decide if that's something we want to go forward with or not. Don't have to make the decision now, but I want to give the committee just a sense of the types of things that we're thinking about, right?
Right, and there is parity in the both buildings. They do have a referee room inside the building too, so there is parity inside between Tollgate and Pilgrim. So
And why is there an additional?
Yeah, why do we have?
it was an ask by the Pilgrim group to add that. And we didn't realize it was gonna come in at that steep of a cost.
Who's the contract?
For $139,000?
It's
So a
Demio.
referee can change?
It covers many trades. It covers mechanical, life safety, plumbing, electrical, all that stuff is tied into that piece. So that's why we're at a price of $139,000, almost $140,000.
So is this more of a convenience?
Yeah.
With the concession being close to the football field versus
Correct.
being in the school.
Correct. And then if I'm gonna do that, then we'd have to do the same thing parity at Tollgate, and you're gonna add another $140,000 over there, and you're looking at a $280,000 add to the project itself.
Yeah, we don't have to decide on that today. There's no decision to be made on that, but for me, I appreciate you bringing this to us, so we know. So if we have to make a decision, a hard decision, we can make one, and we'll know what to about. That's fine.
And I think this was, presented through left field to us, just typically when we're given a vote and it's price and proceed. This, we were asked to do a price and hold.
Right.
To pause so that, because this isn't, to Kevin's point, necessary. I mean, it's nice.
Right.
Not necessary.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
like this is, we get a little bit of time to figure this out, but I think that's John's point here, is just
Yes.
kind of.
It's an unofficial threshold, right? I mentioned that 39, whatever that was, $3,900 change for the rounded ductwork, right? It's a small addition for the betterment of the job. But then this kind of exceeds that threshold where we want to hit the pause button.
Right.
And say, okay, is this really something we need? So
Yeah, okay. Thank you, John.
quickly, here's another example. So we're still working through this with Rossi Electric and with the AV consultant. To the best of my understanding, as of today, we know that there was a lag between the GMPs, between the two projects. Some technology or some equipment became available in between the time that the two GMPs were established. And so Tollgate has some of that technology, or has the technology that Pilgrim doesn't have. So what we're faced with right now is basically trying to bring Pilgrim up to the level of Tollgate in terms of the classroom AV system specifically. So, which is good, right? We've always strived to achieve parity between the two schools. We've talked about these systems, we're in agreement with the direction we want to go in, but then we got the costs, or at least the rough order of magnitude costs, to bring Pilgrim up to Tollgate. It's in the hundreds of thousands of dollars as of today, right? It still needs to be vetted. We have a meeting this afternoon, actually, to talk about it, but it's another moment where we want to just hit the pause button, right? And before we come before this committee, say next month, with a change order for, and I'm making up a number, but it could be $300,000, $400,000. We want you to be aware of what the context is, right? So,
What type of technology are we talking about here? What type of lines are we talking about?
I know, Michael, you're intimately involved with certain aspects of this, right? So one of the features is the time sign monitor. And I don't know if you want to maybe explain what it is.
So the time sign monitor is basically an announcement system that is separate from anything else within the building. It does general announcements, it does intruder announcements, it has many different features. We're looking at it as a security system. Now, there has been talk about being able to tie it into, let's say, the Promethean boards. Not all rooms have a Promethean board. The time sign device is basically your clock, your announcement system, and a lot more. Now, we've already known that Promethean, you're looking at a different system now. Now, those systems can change, but the time sign is its own system. It's hardwired in. I'm really seeing it as a security component rather than something that is a teaching component like the Promethean. Yes, you can tie into this whole announcement system, but not every room has a Promethean board, or the Promethean board might be off. There's a lot of background information that we can share about it, but in the short statement that I have is a security system, an announcement system.
I think it's a monitor roughly the size of.
Yeah. It's that, so, and no matter what upgrades you make to your Promethean boards, which is always being upgraded and such, this is a system that is your clock and security and your announcements, and it has many different features to it. Again, it's really a security system.
Yeah.
So is it the equipment cost itself? That's the issue?
Well,
The hardware costs also?
still working through it, right? So we were given a number a couple of months ago, maybe a few months ago now, to deduct the time sign from the Tollgate project. It was $36,000, something in that vicinity. And we said, okay, for the sake of improved security and notification system, I mean, it's not really, worth going backwards, right? More recently, we've been given a rough order of magnitude of something much different. So I think $1,600, $1,650 per time sign for time and materials to install. Times, in Pilgrim's case, $200. 200 time signs, I want to say it's like $320,000 in total, right?
John, how is Tollgate different than Pilgrim? Why is this just Pilgrim?
The
Tollgate
way it was
has it.
explained to me, it was the lag between the bid documents being due, but
No, so it's not.
Yes.
If we were to credit them from Pilgrim, it would be at exactly the same unit rate. The credit that was previously provided was a complete misunderstanding of the ask of the scope. That was to eliminate the analog clocks only from the classroom. So it's a completely different scope of work.
I thought you were asking me about
No,
why.
I think Carmen was asking why the difference. So I
Right.
think what happened was when the documents were finalized for Pilgrim, right, we went out to bid.
Right.
It was one kind of system.
Yeah.
And then in the 2 or 3 months interim period before Tollgate got the final
Yeah.
documents,
Right.
they came up with this Unity system, I think is what it's called. It was more cutting edge later technology. So Tollgate, I believe, has this Unity system, which is slightly different than what Pilgrim has. What we're gonna meet today with the AV consultants, try to get to the root of this, understand what is it that Pilgrim truly has? What is the difference? Because there's some confusion as to why there's so much added cost. We, honestly, we're struggling with understanding the added cost and we're trying to wrap our heads around it. So we're meeting with the AV consultant this morning, 11 o'clock, to do a deep dive into this whole thing to understand.
And this is all through the electrical subcontractor?
Yes, and the other thing that makes it confusing on is, Rossi Electric is the electrical contractor, both over in Tollgate, but on the AV side, they have different sub-consultants
Okay.
underneath us. So, we have a different
Yeah.
lower tier contractor than Tollgate does, so it's not 100% apples to apples.
Just, so this has come up. We had a meeting a couple months ago, in relation to the technology going into the schools. Whether the mutual link rate panic buttons tied in, what that was gonna look like. This Think sign came up in there. There was discussion on, because we're not getting Promethean boards, it's actually a different board. On whether those boards can be switched on every morning at a set time from almost like a central station. That way, if you have a teacher that's late or a substitute, you don't have to worry about it. And there was discussion too about potentially having the Think signs in just areas where there were lapses, where you didn't have, the bigger boards. But there was a lot of, I don't want to say it was a contentious meeting, but there are a lot of pretty strong opinions on all sides between, I think, Rossi Electric, beside a couple of the other vendors that were in there, as to whether this is needed and what exactly the other programs, there was talk about strobes in rooms and are we overkilling it?
Is that the meeting that we had downstairs?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a related topic, a little different in a way, right? Because you're talking about that rave app that you guys have been using with success for some time, right? And we've had more meetings about that with the same people. As that stands right now, we think that we're going to go forward with the system as designed. So you're going to have all that infrastructure built into the projects, right? And then in addition to that, you're gonna have this kind of robust arm of the mobile arm of the security notification system in the RABAC, which we think would be to the overall betterment of the project. So it's no longer thought of, I don't think, as a redundancy. In fact, I think that everyone on the subcontractor side is on board with including everything as it stands now. So I mean, from my perspective, I don't see it as being as contentious as it might have started out.
Yeah.
But that said, I mean, it's open to more dialogue and to have people like yourself involved in more discussions would be, but we have had Mr. Majacomo involved in these continued conversations and Mr. Nepalil, so and Mr. Hall, obviously.
Well, I think you're building it as a safety system. You're gonna compromise the safety system from a public perception. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. Now, having said that, I mean, I don't, from the way you described it, it sounds like a good system to have. Again, I wouldn't want it to just become, well, it's too expensive, so no. But I mean, your job is to try to bash this thing down and figure out, okay, what the hell's going on here? Okay, why is the delta like this, right? Maybe there's a misunderstanding on there, and I don't know. So again, we don't have to decide that yet, but my former life, I grind them down until they say uncle. Or whatever. There are changes to make and go different direction and still get the same thing. But that's for you guys to figure out. You guys are the experts. So,
and I don't want to make it sound like we're proposing to make a reduction in the safety systems of the school. It was the way it was described to me was that you could go both ways. That this was sort of like an added feature, but at the end of the day, the notification could be overridden onto the Promethean board at any time, even if the power was off. But to I think Michael's point, there are scenarios where you don't have that Promethean board coverage, right? And in that event, maybe you do supplement it with a time sign. So,
okay.
Anyway, that's
all right. More to come.
Can I
Go
just,
all day on that one.
can I just make a comment? And although I understand the financial implications of this, I'm just going to say, as a principal, and especially in the current atmosphere that I don't see changing anytime soon, and I'm not questioning whether you think safety is of the utmost paramount to me. And to everybody at this table, I don't mean to discount that, but I'm just going to tell you, when you are in charge of 1,200 lives plus another 150 adults on a day, to me, it is well worth whatever that costs. So I just want to put that out there.
Good.
Good. And the last comment, I mean, I understand that, John, we've gone every which way and shape and form looking at these systems. And we're trying not to have it overlap. And I think that's the thing, is that we don't want to have, we have both of these. So we're trying to separate out what's the overlap, is there overlap, what can be possible change. We want to make it where it's a very simple thing for security, period. And so we appreciate all the different ways of looking at it, and we'll continue to look at it.
I would just be very interested to see how we jumped from $36,000 to $250,000, $300,000. That to me is my.
I think what
60
James was saying is.
That's what I was saying. The 36,000 was completely different scope of work. It was a misunderstanding in our ask to the electrical contractor. They did not understand what we were asking for when they provided that number.
The brand is time signed, and I think when we were talking about time, they were thinking clocks. So it's totally, off base of what.
Correct.
Change the conversation, but
So
Yeah.
But if we were to not put them in at Pilgrim and we were to take them out of Tollgate, they would be credited at the Tollgate project at the same dollar value, that's $1,600 per unit, as the proposed add is for Pilgrim. So there's parity in the numbers between the projects.
so from a pretty much a project management hat on, I couldn't help it. Kind of behooves me to just raise the point that while you're looking at either maybe a $300,000+ add to the program as opposed to, I'm just talking round numbers, $500,000, $200 and something $1,000 savings and the omission of $300 and something $350,000 ad, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? So that's why, one of the reasons we're bringing it up.
We got it. I got it. Okay. Any other questions for, Mr. Bates on that?
Just
Yeah,
quickly-
Mr. Rabbits.
Oh, sorry.
Just for safety today, is it a requirement to have the ability to make an announcement in every room in a school? Just classrooms, or are we talking bathrooms, like everything?
You want it everywhere. You want to be able to hear, whether the speakers are in the hallway, whether in the classrooms, when an alarm goes off or.
So that's a different level of conversation because you have the ability with this to actually do it where there's a silence. There's not, sometimes you want to have something that you see up there that is an intruder alert without having all the bells and whistles go off. There are many different levels of how this works, and that's a whole different conversation.
So every room. My question is just every room. Every room needs to have the ability to make an announcement.
Yes, yeah.
Interesting.
It has to be audible.
People are gonna be everywhere.
Every area, yes, every area of the building. Next big bio, FF&E, right? It's gonna happen this year. We have a current budget of $5 million on soft costs for furniture, fixtures, and equipment. The FF&E consultant is actively working on the final lists. It's tracking over budget, last I heard, roughly $3 million per project. And when we get those final lists, I think we do want to do a pretty good review and see if there's any savings to be had there. Just wanted to make you aware of that.
John, did we originally think that original FF&E budget was a little high?
Well, it's proven to not, the FF&E budget's proven not to be high. And it's based on rides prescribed dollar per student, right?
Yeah, no, I know that's a ride.
That's a ride by the dollar per
formula.
student. That's where that was derived from. We have another, it's a good segue. We have another item in the soft cost for just technology, also based on a ride prescription, right? $1 per student. That's $7 million. We think that.
Okay,
Right.
that's
Historically,
the number I was thinking.
Historically, maybe half of that is used, right? And so that's something we're tracking. We don't have anything committed to that line item yet. Might use some of that to help the FF&E budget, right? Assuming we're going to have some overages there. And it's just something we're holding on to. I don't foresee having a substantial amount of commitments to that line.
Yeah,
because
historically it's about half. I mean, not to say we're gonna.
And yeah, just to add to John's, RIDE has forced us to put a lot of things into FF&E that we normally would not have. So that's why you're seeing a higher number there.
And they don't change the reimbursement at all, right? To reflect inflation.
Okay.
I will tell you, John.
We got to talk about alternates, right?
Yeah.
The referendum results last night prompted us to talk about alternates revisited. Particularly was it related to the fields, just to familiarize yourself, these are what they are, right? Like we have the playground, CTC playground at Pilgrim. We've got the baseball, softball practice and walkways, all this work that you see over here. We have the additional tennis court up here to make 5 total courts. Bleachers and press boxes for the football field, and then we perimeter fencing is one of the alternates too. So just to kind of refamiliarize yourself with what the alternates are, and we wanted to show you the contrast of what we currently own as part of the base project, right? The turf football field and the track around it, and then without them, or this is what we have. This would be what we would buy with all the alternates. This is what you get without them. So I just wanted to show that stark contrast. Any thoughts? Or when we started in the office, we were kind of like, wow. But
John, my only question is,
yeah,
why was there a need for an additional tennis court?
is that to host state level
That
needs?
was to be able to hold state needs, they needed 5 courts.
What do they don't have to,
They don't have to.
they don't have to host state event, right?
No, they do not.
They can always.
Yeah.
host those at-
Somewhere else.
So that's a good segue to maybe where we
Just
might
food
go
for
next,
thought, that's
right?
all.
Start talking about VE, right? And what can we actually afford? And credit to Divio, both Mark and James did a great summary or breakdown of the alternate scope. It listed out here, it's got the associated pricing. And then I think what we're gonna do is we've got this matrix here where we can identify whether these are things that should happen, they could happen, or things that we could omit. And the tennis court, the additional tennis court could be an example of something we just don't need. And there's some price savings there. Just thinking outside the box, what if we could afford to do the baseball field, but we could leave the softball field where it is currently. We don't do the tennis court like we talked about. Maybe the hardscape walkways become stone dust. These are just the kind of things that we're talking about as we discuss these things.
Right.
And,
So John, the softball field, there's already one there, so would it, I mean, you wouldn't build a new one, but you could, if you went there, you could dress it up, right?
dress it up a little bit, yeah.
You know, rehab it a little bit, so it's,
Stick in
okay. The functional softball field, that's,
It's fully functional.
that's the point, right?
You know, then we gotta get to the parity issue, right? If we're gonna keep the existing softball field, Tollgate needs to have a new softball field. They have nothing right now.
Mhm.
Presumably, if you're gonna build a new one at Tollgate, you're gonna do it to new standards. You're gonna have a, you know, CMU wall dugout, scoreboard, you know, some bells and whistles. So presumably you wanna get.
I get that argument, I do. But you gotta be pragmatic and realistic as well. You know, maybe it's unpopular, but you know, if Tollgate gets a new one because it was in the scope and then it has, what'd you say, like underground dugouts or whatever it is, and the Tollgate one has above ground dugouts. Sometimes you gotta stand up and say, I'll take that criticism. Right? That's not my call to make, obviously, this committee will do that, but you know, ideally, in a perfect world, everything would be the same. Both places, in a
You
perfect
know,
world.
yeah, and I think that's the only intent here, is just to kind of get people thinking.
Yep.
Right, so let's face it, if we're being honest, in the seventies, when Tollgate was built, it was not fair. I mean, those kids.
Oh, sure, no question,
softball,
no
baseball
question about
field,
that.
And
No question.
I don't, you know, it just seems like you don't want to repeat that mistake.
No, I completely agree. I mean, but again, if it's essentially, you know, your dugout's above ground, your dugout's underground, I'm not quite sure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, does it affect my willingness or my want to play softball? Or, you know what I mean? I don't know, but that's a conversation for later, but fine. Go ahead. I'm sorry, John.
It gets more interesting though, we look at, say, the football scoreboard, right? We own the football field, but we don't own the scoreboard. We don't own the goalposts as part of the base scope. So these are maybe things that we need to have, right?
Yeah.
Tough to play football without
Got it on a
goalposts, right?
Yeah.
Look, somebody's standing again.
But we don't own them as it is.
Yeah.
That's my only point,
Yeah,
right?
so
So,
I understand.
same thing with Tollgate, right? Similar. So tennis courts, practice field, get a greenhouse, just south of the building.
John, the tennis courts at Windman there, that are on the Tollgate campus, Windman campus. What's happening with those is that
Similar
Yeah,
refurbished.
that was an added
Yeah, of course.
adding a court too.
Adding.
It what? I didn't ask for an extra court.
Might not have, but there's somebody else.
Well, it comes up with 5 and 5, so, okay, so either way.
Concession building, bleachers, press boxes, baseball, softball field down the hill, and, you know, similar questions. This is an interesting one. So we own, the subsurface work to bring the baseball field up to grade. And we also own the retaining wall that would be necessary when we raise that grade. But we don't own the base bid, correct me if I'm off track here, James, and we don't own the protective chain link fence that would go on top of that retaining wall for fall protection. Right. So that's something that, you know, Reason would say, we need to have that fence, we need to buy that fence, right? So that would be an add.
Mhm.
It gets a little trickier, when we get to the concession building, right? So, the concession building is gonna have associated underground utilities that have to get run to it. Maybe we're not building the concession building now, or we can't do it, but we want to lay the infrastructure now while we're in the ground, so to speak.
Mhm.
And I think that it's a code requirement to have that concession building if we're gonna have these fields here, right? Polling code dictates if you're gonna have people that far away from the building, you need to have a place for them to use the restroom. So trying to future-proof the project. Same thing with the greenhouse, you know, we do own a concrete slab. I don't think we own the underground utilities to that greenhouse. We don't own the greenhouse itself. But we want to make it ready so that we can replace the greenhouse. In the future, we have the money to do that and buy it. We want to run those utilities.
Right.
To the slab.
And the practice field, is that the same thing?
Same deal.
As the
Yeah,
baseball
yeah,
field?
there's a retaining wall and presumably we want to have that protective chain link fence on the retaining wall for flood protection, right? So.
Because the students will just fall off.
Exactly.
Yeah, we don't want that to happen.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, what else do I got? Oh, this is my favorite topic. So this is DEM soils, contaminated soils. I just want to make you folks aware of what's coming. So this is the eastern part of the site where we're currently building. We already stripped that topsoil. We shipped it. It's gone, but we've got phase 1A, which we're going to start tackling this summer, and then we've got phase 2, which maybe start tackling this spring, frankly, with investigative work. But we've got some more hits, PAHs here, right? The coal ash that we have to address. We do have some work going on here this summer, right?
Correct.
So we have to hit these. We can delineate it, so we can test around it and see if we've dug up the extent of the contamination. Whatever we dig up, we could potentially put underneath the cap, or we export it. We have that option. And here is what I think is probably the trickiest piece of this whole puzzle is that vinyl chloride hit that we got in the groundwater. So we are required now by DEM to do some investigative work to see what the source of that contaminant is. Our environmental consultant is advising us to dig holes in the existing building. And they are advising us to do ground penetrating radar to kind of trace the underground utility systems, a whole list of things that they think that we should do. And it could get expensive, could get disruptive, but we have to start pouring holes in the concrete slab here. We have to do something, but we don't know exactly what. So I think it's going to be some conversations with DEM and our consultant to see exactly what do we really have to do. We have to prove to them that we tried to find that source.
Yeah, but John, you had said when that was first discovered, right? We tested it. The groundwater runs west to east, right? So you didn't find any traces of vinyl chloride in the phase 1 area.
No.
Right.
No, we didn't.
Okay, so which at the time was a good thing, so it didn't spread,
Right,
right?
right.
So is the question now? Do you want to see if
Yeah. So is this?
it went the other way?
There was an oil spill here 40 years ago. Is that the remnants of that oil spill? There's a shop here. Is that just people dumping stuff outside the shop? Is a hydraulic lift, or there was a hydraulic lift here? Did the fluids leak out and cause that? Or the worst case would be time bond. Notice the manholes over here, and there was a connection or a connection that was maybe never connected to the science labs, right?
There was talk, she believes that the science lab sinks were drained to a dry well. And I tend to push back on that and tell her that the entire septic system, sewer system for the entire building always went back to those original pumps. And those pumps were pumped out to a cesspool. And then when the sewers came through, they tied to the sewer system.
But they fear that maybe it's originating from here and then making its way in the water down to there. And, that would be probably the worst case, but
Okay.
just wanted to let you
Nothing but
folks
good
know
news,
more.
John, nothing but good news.
That concludes my update.
Can you share this,
Oh, yeah.
the slide deck with us?
Absolutely.
Any questions for left field? Yes, Mr. Holmes.
Couple. After the debacle of the vote, we now face the reality of what there's gonna be a need. I can see where you're really cutting to the bare bones as to what is included now and what is not included. And I'm sure in my previous mind that there have been discussions held as to what the possibilities were about raising money. And when this committee all realizes we're not gonna have this 2 schools without fields. So we're gonna find a way to do it. And I'm guessing that there's discussions being held. Number one, I think this committee should be more involved in that. But I think Left Field and Dimeo has to come up with a final number. What's obligated and what's beyond the scope. And has just a couple of thoughts that crossed my mind were in this day and age of naming rights and or sponsorships. If we this committee hasn't been involved in the discussions with whoever. I don't know who's supposed to, whether it's the mayor, whoever, we realize there's gonna be fields. So we're gonna have to pay for them somehow. And every month that goes by, it's less and less, or harder and harder to do. I just throw that out for the discussion about the naming rights. You know, you look at the Civic Center. And at any place, you can raise money. You can raise money by local cities, companies, naming, sponsorships to help defray the costs.
Yeah.
But we gotta get to a cost.
Yeah.
Before we can do that. But I just wanted to put these things out. We were talking before about naming rights and sponsorships. Everybody's looking to sponsor something.
Yeah, well, I think a couple of things. Number one, I think knowing what is left in contingency, right? That drives everything else, right? It's really hard to make a decision until you know what is left in contingencies. If I'm wrong, just correct me, because I have been wrong before. So, that's one thing, right? And then Left Field and Dimeo, you guys would tell us, this is what's possible with whatever is left, right? School committee is revisiting its policies on sponsorships and things like that. School committee, I don't know if we approved the policy for the first read, or I think it was just the first read.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, we did. Okay. And I know that, there was a meeting with the administration, the superintendent, and I wasn't there, the chair was there, because the city has an interest in, okay, well, let's see what is the actual need. So I think to your point, yes, we will do all of that. I think there's a city's going to be involved, school committee will be involved, administration will be involved. We will be led by the superintendent, right? Because he's the face of the project, good looking guy.
I'm not trying to throw stones.
No.
I get, I know how things work.
Things are percolating.
Yeah, exactly.
Things are percolating.
Okay.
I can't.
But
say this time.
I'm not trying to step on the school committee's toes, but shouldn't we be involved in that somehow too?
But we should be made aware of what's going on, right? So, like, right now, you've had one meeting, which was essentially.
Which hat you were gonna wear? Which hat?
Yeah, so we will be involved. This committee is involved more in what bubbles up from Left Field and Dimeo. Here's what can be done, here's what can't be done. The administration and the school committee revising their policies to solicit those kinds of naming rights or whatever. We have our attorney on that too, to see what's permissible and what's not. Personally, I push that limit a little bit, whatever it is, I push it just a little. So yeah, those, because we realize that, not only just to get them built, but it's the maintenance.
And until you bring them out, you're never gonna know.
Yeah, it's gonna be, you're gonna have a turf field that requires some maintenance. So, a lot of that, the naming rights and all the advertising around those fields, I've always felt, and I've been public about it, I think any revenue that's generated from that has to go into a restricted fund in our budget. It can only be used for turf maintenance or field maintenance, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's turf and or field maintenance. Because, you can't, that turf's gotta be replaced in 10, 15 years. And that's a 7-figure deal. So, you can't just ignore it and then 10, 15 years, we need $1.5 million to put in turf.
You gotta put it in
That would be a dumb thing to do, in my opinion. So if you can generate revenue and park it and restrict it so it can't be touched, then it lessens that blow. So I guess all those things are ongoing.
I figured that.
Yeah.
And the use of turf is a 12-month product where you go by PC today or anyone who has turf, they plow the field and they're using it. So it's something that you can use 12 months a year.
Yeah, right. And 45 years ago, you had a grass football field, right? It was used for football, maybe soccer. Now it's football, soccer, lacrosse, field hockey. So it's a year-round use, so you can't rejuvenate it in the spring. There's really no time, right? Yeah. Okay, any other questions for Mr. Bates? All right, next is the discussion actions. Draft policy on new high school PCO for me. The school committee wanted to adopt a policy, and it really just applies to the new high school project. It's how we handle PCOs. We've been handling them fine now, but they want to codify it in a policy. Some of you may have forgotten, but back in 2024, we had established a subcommittee way before we even had Demio on board, I think. But it was, look, if PCOs came and required some sort of an emergency decision, right? We're not going to convene a building committee meeting at the drop of a hat. So we established a subcommittee of 4 building committee members. Original members were, Mr. Kravitz, you were an original member. You didn't know that, did you?
He wasn't there that day.
So it originally was Mr. Lucy, Mr. Kravitz, a finance director at the time, and Mr. McCaffrey. They were the 4. And it doesn't have to meet in person. It can be a virtual meeting. And then Mr. Gothberg, as a consultant, would be an advisor. So Mr. Oliver will assume that role. So what we want to do is just make sure everybody's cool with being part of that. So if there is something that comes up that can't wait for a building committee meeting, okay, that subcommittee can approve it. Then it comes to us, and then we just go to the school committee, because we don't want to delay the project, right? And so what I enclosed was, this was a draft of a policy that the policy subcommittee put together. And our attorney said, look, he'd like the building committee to bless this. Then it goes to the policy subcommittee to make sure there's no other tweaks. And then it just goes to the school committee. And this would expire when the high schools are built. So again, you may never meet. You may never have to meet, but it would just be a virtual thing. You just get together on a Zoom or a whatever we have, Google Meet. So if everybody's fine with that, the policy says, you know, PCOs up to 350, except though we're legally obligated, legally allowed to spend. If additional funding comes in and we can get it to the original 373 or up to the 373, then we would keep going until we get to the 373. So I just want to make sure that those 4 to 5 people, the 4 people will be Mr. Kravitz, Mr. Lucy, need you because you're the construction guy. So you can say, no, this isn't going to work. I need somebody to stand up and say that. And then it would be coordinated with Left Field and Demio. But again, so far, I mean, we're early on in the PCO process, you know, so far it's been working where we can bring it here to the full committee.
Yeah.
But I think it's irresponsible if we don't have a plan in case something comes up that requires an emergency. So if everybody's on board with that.
And that's typical for a project.
Yeah.
Just to have something.
Right.
Whatever you can make.
Right. So if everyone's on board with that, I'd just be looking for a motion to approve this building committee change order approval process, which will become the policy. And then it would sunset once the high schools are built. Any questions? No? Pick you. I did send you an email in January of 2024.
I'm sure you did.
Not that you've done anything else since then.
Still in your inbox?
All right.
So Dave, that's only in the event of the quote unquote emergency.
Yeah,
piece,
something that couldn't
right?
wait.
Otherwise, this process just.
Yeah, something that
stays
couldn't
as
wait
is.
for the regular building committee, monthly building committee meeting.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, let's hope not. I mean, you know.
Something comes up this afternoon, it's all. Just miss the.
Yeah. Don't try to game this. All right. I'm not gonna allow you to game. So, all right. So I'd be looking for a motion.
It's easy to go through the whole committee they nominate.
It's gonna get passed on. That's why you need him on there. So, all right. So I'd be looking for a motion to approve the draft policy on the new high school PCOs.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Enos, seconded by Ms. Calori. Any further questions? Okay, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Last item, discussion action, Rhode Island Energy Tollgate Incentive Program for Mr. Bates.
So, Rhode Island Energy is crediting us for designing an energy efficient building, right? We enrolled in the low energy use intensity program, reimbursement program. They're offering us $247,663 incentives. And similar to Pilgrim, it's not quite what we had hoped for because at $1.50 per square foot, it's a little shy of, roughly $1,000. But as I explained with the Pilgrim offer, it's only reimbursed up to measures above energy code. So based on their calculus, this is what we get. And it's generally it's good news, right? That we're getting an incentive. So we're recommending we accept their offer.
Questions for, what was the Pilgrim one? Was it roughly the same amount, right? Because the buildings were, okay.
Yeah. They're comparable in size and comparable in design, right? Same engineers. So.
And how does that work? Do they just write us a credit? Where does that come to this?
No, it comes in at the end of the project.
So they write a check? Or do they give us a credit so we don't have to pay our electric bill for it?
No, I don't think they offer credit through your utility bill.
Okay.
I think it's a check, yeah.
Check. And it comes to, who?
Comes in a big check.
Comes to the school department?
Yeah,
Yeah.
where I last worked, yeah, we get a big check.
Building committee can't have that.
No.
I mean, the budget commission can't have that. That's all.
I ran it right over City Hall.
Okay. Okay.
So that it's roughly $500,000.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, between the two.
All right. All right. If there are no further questions, looking for motion to approve the Rhode Island, the tollgate and the Gene Center program.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Holmes and seconded by Mr. Enos. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Public comment, Mr. Gibbons is here? Nothing? You sure? Okay. All right, committee member request for future consideration. Obviously, just reach out to Jenny. Next meeting is Wednesday, April 1st. If I had to check, I don't think I can make that meeting. If we change it, does the next day work, if the second work, or another day? Yeah, Jenny, just email you guys for just another day, because I have to be for work at the Cape for 9. It'll be in Sandwich for 9 o'clock. I would never make it. So I can't get out of it. So, all right, I'll have Jen, we'll just send a couple of dates out just to see. Okay. All right. So, nothing else before this committee will close to adjourn. Moved by Ms. Galori, seconded by Mr. Kravitz. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned at 8:57. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Next.